Most people assume that going through too much hardship breaks a person, that pain makes someone weaker, colder, or emotionally damaged. But psychology tells a very different story. Some of the most misunderstood behaviors actually come from resilience, not dysfunction. And what looks like emotional distance may be something far more complex. Psychology and neuroscience reveal that people who have endured repeated emotional stress often develop distinct mental patterns. In this video, the science behind those behaviors is unpacked. Why they think differently, feel deeply, and respond in unexpected ways. Stay until the end, because the final insight explains why these individuals often possess a rare form of emotional intelligence. People who have been through too much often notice subtle emotional shifts in others. A change in tone, a pause before a sentence, a mood that doesn't match the words being said. Psychology explains this through hypervigilance, a cognitive adaptation shaped by past stress. The brain learns to scan the environment for emotional cues as a form of protection. Neural pathways connected to threat detection become more active. But here's the reframe. This isn't weakness, it's advanced emotional perception. Research shows that this heightened awareness often translates into strong empathy and emotional intelligence. If this feels familiar, it actually signals a mind trained to understand people deeply. But this sensitivity comes with a cost, and that leads to the next pattern. Many people who have endured repeated hardship rarely ask for help. Even when support is available, there's a strong instinct to handle things alone. From a psychological perspective, this stems from learned self-sufficiency. When past experiences taught the brain that help was unreliable or inconsistent, independence became the safest strategy. Behavioral psychology calls this adaptive coping. What's often misunderstood is that this isn't emotional coldness, it's strategic resilience. Studies indicate that individuals with this trait are often highly capable under pressure. They don't panic easily, they act. But here's the deeper layer most people miss. This self-reliance often hides an intense internal world. People who have been through too much tend to think deeply. Conversations replay. Decisions are analyzed. Meaning is constantly extracted from experiences. Cognitive psychology explains this as reflective processing. The brain, shaped by complex experiences, becomes skilled at pattern recognition and meaning-making. It's similar to how muscles strengthen after repeated strain. This trait is frequently mislabeled as overthinking, but research suggests it's actually a sign of high cognitive engagement. The mind is trying to integrate lessons, avoid future harm, and create coherence from chaos. If this resonates, it doesn't mean the mind is broken. It means it has been trained to understand complexity, and that depth often leads to a surprising behavior. People who've been through too much don't open up easily. But when they do, it's intentional, deep, rare. Attachment psychology explains this through cautious bonding. Emotional access becomes selective after repeated disappointment or emotional overload. Trust is no longer automatic, it's earned. What's fascinating is that this selectivity is linked to emotional maturity. Studies show that people who regulate closeness intentionally tend to form fewer but more meaningful connections. So if emotional walls feel familiar, psychology suggests this isn't fear of connection, it's respect for emotional energy. And this directly shapes how these individuals relate to the world. In situations that overwhelm others, people who have endured intense stress often appear unusually calm. Crises don't trigger panic, they trigger focus. Neuroscience reveals why. Repeated exposure to stress conditions, the nervous system. The brain becomes efficient at regulating emotional spikes. Cortisol responses are managed more quickly. This calmness isn't emotional numbness, it's emotional regulation. Research shows that this trait is common in people with high stress tolerance and leadership potential. But here's the paradox. While external chaos feels manageable, internal silence can feel uncomfortable, and that leads to a rarely discussed pattern. When life finally becomes calm, many people who've been through too much feel uneasy. Peace can feel unfamiliar, even boring. Psychology explains this through baseline stress adaptation. The brain adapts to intensity as a norm. When stimulation drops, the nervous system searches for engagement. This doesn't mean these individuals crave drama. It means their brains were calibrated in high-demand environments. Studies indicate this pattern is common among resilient, high-functioning individuals. The key insight is this discomfort isn't self-sabotage, it's a nervous system adjusting to a new normal. And once understood, it becomes easier to manage. People who've been through too much often enforce boundaries firmly. They disengage quickly from disrespect. They don't tolerate repeated emotional strain. To outsiders, this can appear cold or detached, but psychology frames it differently. This is boundary intelligence, a skill developed through experience. Research shows that people who protect their emotional limits effectively experience less long-term stress and higher life satisfaction. They've learned that access to their time and energy is valuable. If this resonates, it doesn't signal emotional distance. It signals self-respect shaped by experience. And this trait often pairs with something unexpected. Despite strong boundaries, many people who've endured a lot are deeply compassionate, especially toward others who are struggling. Psychology explains this through shared emotional schemas. The brain recognizes pain it has known before. This recognition activates empathy circuits more strongly. Studies indicate that individuals with lived adversity often show higher pro-social behavior, even if they don't express it loudly. Compassion becomes quiet, action-based, real. This combination, firm boundaries and deep empathy, is rare, and it points to the final, most important insight. Here's what most people miss. Psychology doesn't just study trauma, it studies what comes after. Post-traumatic growth is a well-documented phenomenon. Research shows that some individuals develop greater self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and purpose after prolonged hardship. They don't just survive, they integrate. Their values become clearer. Their tolerance for superficiality drops. Their understanding of human behavior deepens. If many of these patterns feel familiar, psychology suggests this isn't damage, it's transformation. Quiet, complex, hard-earned. People who have been through too much are often misunderstood. Their calm is mistaken for detachment, their boundaries for coldness, their depth for heaviness. But psychology reveals a different truth. These patterns are not flaws, they are signs of adaptation, intelligence, and emotional strength, shaped under pressure. Understanding this changes the narrative, from something being wrong to something being forged. If this perspective resonated, subscribe for weekly psychology insights that help decode human behavior and deepen self-understanding. The next video explores why emotionally intelligent people often feel out of place in modern society. And remember, what you've been through didn't break you, it shaped you.